Hello, I am Stephanie Joy, the attorney at All Things Social Security and Joy Disability Law. Your video is about to start. I just wanted to remind you that if you click the join button below, you can learn more about the memberships offered at a very affordable price that can give you a little more direct attorney answers to your questions. Have a great day and enjoy the video. Hey, so the Commissioner of Social Security Administration put out a little blog piece today about the 50th anniversary of the SSI program being in effect. Now, a couple years ago was the 50th anniversary of it being signed into law by its major proponent, which was President Nixon. President Nixon was a big instigator in getting this program going. Might surprise some people who may be uninformed. But anyway, so if you look at, I'll attach a couple of these if anybody just wants to know a little bit more about that. As you know, SSI is for disabled individuals or older adults who are disabled, and it can include children who are disabled, unlike Social Security disability, which does not include disabled children. Based on their own disability, they cannot have the insurance themselves. As you might know, SSD only provides the auxiliary benefit to dependent children on a parent who is receiving Social Security disability, Social Security retirement, or has passed after becoming insured for such. Okay, so, and the other criteria, of course, is need. You have to be poor. You have to have limited, extremely limited income and resources. And they do tell us that today, nearly 1 million children receive SSI payments every month to help with basic needs like food, rent, clothing, and medicine. The medicine aspect comes from the typical receipt of some sort of Medicaid, depending on the state that they're in. I thought they gave a stat on the amount of, I think it was, 7.5 million people total receive SSI, according to the commissioner, 1 million of which are children. So anywho, SSI is a really important program, as many of you know. And we have a few videos we have a lot of videos out there about the ins and outs and how-tos, but there are also a video or two that tries to, in my own clumsy way, mitigate some of the stereotypes against SSI. And you know, as it is with any stereotype, sometimes we take what we see, if we consider it disproportionate, and we inflate it to a generality. Or perhaps it is a generality, although it's not with SSI for sure. Vast majority of SSI recipients are up and are disabled and are poor. But yeah, sometimes those generalities grab hold and assumptions are made. So if you have assumptions like that, I ask you to rethink them and perhaps look at numbers and stuff like that. Anyway, SSI, I'm very grateful for it. I do practice SSI, not just SSD. Some of my colleagues just do SSD. That's fine too. There are different reasons for everything. But I do both. So anyway, if you need to know anything about SSI, feel free to check out the playlists. And now I'm going to go back to completing an SSI application for a new client. I'll talk to you later. Bye, guys. Hey, so if the subject matter of the video you just listened to is of interest and you want more on it, stay tuned. Here's another one about the same topic, but a little bit different. Bye now. Good afternoon. Happy Saturday. It's really hot out here. Something came up yesterday. I just wanted to share it with you. I think there's a misconception or a stereotype, and it's unattractive, and I think it's incorrect. I see it a lot where there's an assumption or a stereotype that people that are receiving SSI, which is a welfare program, no way around that, that they were non-workers or therefore lazy or something to that effect. And I just want to say, from my perspective and from some readings that has been put out by the SSA in terms of the numbers of workers that end up collecting SSI, in my experience and with my clients, which are the under 65 SSI crowd versus the over 65 aged and poor versus under 65 and disabled and poor. So of course I deal with the disabled, right? I don't even know if I remember the last time I had a person who we were fighting for SSI, whether it was that's all they were going to be able to get due to the circumstances, or if it was going to be concurrent with SSD. I don't remember the last time I had someone who didn't have a work record. So you might be saying, well, if they worked, why can't they get SSD? Why would they have to go on to, get the welfare? Well, there's a plethora of reasons, but generally with Social Security disability, it doesn't matter how long you worked if you worked not in the last 10 years. And if you didn't work sufficiently in the last 10 years. So let's say you worked the first 4 of the last 10 years, and then you become disabled. You are not insured for Social Security disability and you can't get it. You will be able to get SSI if you prove you're disabled and you are poor enough. And that's a whole, definitional thing right there. But you could have worked for 30 years, 80 hours a week, earned a lot, earned a little doing that, whatever. But you could have been the most hard worker of all, and you might not get SSD if your dates do not pan out along with your medical proofs. So that's because Social Security disability is like a term insurance. I call it that. It's not officially called that, but I call it that because after you stop paying the premiums like other term insurances, you'll become uninsured for Social Security disability. Now, you may or may not have worked enough to become permanently insured for retirement, Social Security retirement. And if you worked less than 10 years, by the time you get to be 62 and above, you're not going to have Social Security retirement based on your own work record. You could have it based on a spouse, their work efforts, but not your own. But going back to it, so let's say a person, and this happens all too frequently, a person stops working for some reason. It could be they are caretaking children. And then when the kids turn 5.5, 6 and go to kindergarten, the parent starts looking for a job, parent becomes disabled. Guess what? No Social Security disability because they do not have the requisite credits earned in the last 10 years, because we know the last 5.5, they didn't earn any. And you would have to have earned all 4 for each of the 5 years prior, but there were not that many to be earned if they hadn't worked in 5.5 years, generally speaking. It could be rounded because it's calendar years. But that person who worked, and then had kids might find themselves, if they don't work part-time to some degree during those years when they're staying home with the kids, and it could be very part-time to keep up those credits, they're going to find themselves uninsured for Social Security disability. And again, whether they are insured later at the time of retirement is a whole nother question, because it'll depend on how much they worked over their lifetime. Did they hit that 10 years? 40 credits. There are times when someone takes off of work for a number of years, maybe even just a couple of years. But if they didn't have 4 years of credits earned in the prior years, maybe they were doing something else. Maybe they were doing some schooling and took time from work, and they don't have those requisite credits in the 10 years prior, and they become disabled, because of those choices. They could find themselves not able to get Social Security disability when they become disabled, and they may be eligible for SSI, and that would be if they were poor enough, as defined by the SSA. Sometimes we're caretaking for an elderly parent for a few years, and that can really stick it to us. So it's to say that the stereotype that SSI beneficiaries, didn't put in efforts over their adult lifetime is, I think, by and large, very incorrect. Of course, there are exceptions, but there are exceptions on the other side too. You could have someone who didn't work forever and then worked for, summers for 10 years, just summers, and they're going to have coverage. There won't be much, but they will have the coverage. So, I mean, you can start making their judgment calls any which way you want, but none of it's going to really be an accurate generality, I don't think. Each case stands on its own. And like I said, in my experience, and it's been 20 years worth, my SSI people have always been workers. There's just something that interrupted that work pattern. Okay. Sometimes it was choices like school, but they didn't realize the ramifications, and nobody really anticipates becoming disabled. I know I don't yet. It could happen any day. Or they had children, or some other reason, caretaking for somebody, parent, whatever. Recessions when you can't get a job are not that helpful either, because you don't get credits during the time you're collecting unemployment or anything. So all that can come into play. And then if something terrible happens and you're unable to work, you're not going to be eligible for Social Security disability. And it will be SSI, and that's only if you're poor enough. Okay. So let's not point fingers and assume that SSI beneficiaries didn't do anything productive their whole lives. It's generally far from true. Okay. Just wanted everybody to know that, because sometimes I see some nasty stuff out there and it's just wrong. It's incorrect and it's mean, aside from being flat out incorrect. Okay. Ciao for now. I hope you all have a great weekend. Stay cool, and I'll catch you next time. Stephanie Joy. Bye-bye now.